76-year-old Texas man is dead after his Tesla Model 3 slammed into his own home, and now federal investigators are asking a question that's making Tesla nervous. Did Autopilot fail to stop him? This isn't just a tragedy, it's a potential turning point for autonomous vehicle regulation in America. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration opened a formal investigation into the crash, which happened in Katy, Texas, on June 22nd. What makes this incident so significant is the timing. While Elon Musk has spent years promoting Tesla's full self-driving capabilities as nearly ready for prime time, regulators are quietly building a case that these systems aren't as safe as Tesla claims. The federal probe could trigger the first major safety recall or regulatory action against Tesla's autonomous features, something that's never happened on this scale before. This story matters to you because if you own a Tesla, or if you're considering buying one, you're betting your safety on technology that might not be as reliable as the company says. And if you don't own a Tesla, you're sharing the road with drivers who are. And here's where it gets interesting. This crash arrived at exactly the wrong moment for Tesla, right as Congress and the NHTSA are considering stricter rules for autonomous vehicles. The investigation could set a precedent for how regulators handle self-driving technology across the entire industry. On June 22nd, a Tesla Model 3 with Autopilot engaged crashed into a residential home in Katy, Texas, killing the 76-year-old owner, a man who trusted Tesla's technology to keep him safe. According to early reports, the vehicle was backing up when it accelerated toward the house instead of stopping. Neighbors described hearing a loud crash followed by silence. Emergency responders arrived to find the Model 3 partially inside the home, with severe structural damage. The victim's family is now grappling with questions that probably never crossed their minds. How safe is Autopilot really? Was there a warning the driver missed? Could this have been prevented? What makes this case unique is that the vehicle was in the owner's own driveway, the one place he should have felt completely in control. Tesla's Autopilot is marketed as an advanced driver assistance system that handles steering, acceleration, and braking. The company claims it makes driving safer by reducing human error. But here's the problem: Autopilot has limitations that aren't always clear to owners. It can struggle with certain road conditions, fail to detect obstacles, and in some cases, appear to accelerate unexpectedly. The Model 3 that crashed was a relatively recent model, suggesting it had the latest Autopilot hardware and software. This is where it gets complicated. If a newer, more advanced Tesla still failed catastrophically, what does that say about the entire system's reliability? To understand why this crash happened, you need to know how Autopilot actually works, and more importantly, what it can't do. Autopilot uses a combination of cameras, ultrasonic sensors, and radar to monitor the road and surrounding environment. Think of it like a driver wearing glasses while half asleep. It can see some things clearly, but it misses others, and it doesn't have the same instincts as a fully alert human. Here's the technical problem: Autopilot relies heavily on lane markings and road markers to stay oriented. In situations where those markers are unclear, faded, or non-existent, like in a driveway or parking lot, the system can become confused. When backing up in particular, Autopilot has fewer visual references to work with, making it significantly less reliable. The sensors aren't designed to handle every edge case. For instance, if an obstacle is very close to the vehicle, the sensors might not detect it in time to stop. And if the system's software makes an error in interpreting what it's seeing, the car might accelerate instead of brake. Tesla's neural network, which powers Autopilot's decision-making, is trained on thousands of real-world driving scenarios. But here's what nobody talks about: no training data set is perfectly comprehensive. There are always edge cases, unusual situations that the system never encountered during training. A driveway backup gone wrong could be exactly that kind of edge case. And when the stakes are a human life, edge cases become catastrophic. This isn't the first time Autopilot has behaved unexpectedly. In 2023, a Tesla Model 3 with Autopilot collided with a parked fire truck on a California highway, killing the driver. In 2022, a similar incident occurred where a Tesla crashed into a barrier on a San Francisco bridge. These aren't one-off accidents, they are part of a pattern. The NHTSA has been investigating Autopilot for years, with multiple reports of sudden unintended acceleration, phantom braking, and loss of vehicle control. Between 2014 and 2024, there were over 750 complaints filed with federal regulators, specifically about Tesla Autopilot failures. That's an average of 75 complaints per year from a company that sells roughly 1.8 million vehicles annually. Think about that ratio. If 1 in every 24,000 Teslas experiences an autopilot failure severe enough to report to regulators, how many minor incidents go unreported? What's particularly troubling is the consistency of the problem. Drivers report that sometimes autopilot suddenly accelerates without warning. Other times it brakes hard for no apparent reason. And in the worst cases, it seems to ignore obstacles entirely. These aren't random glitches, they suggest a systematic problem with how the system interprets real-world driving scenarios. The Katy crash is significant because it might finally be the incident that pushes regulators to take mandatory action instead of just investigating. But wait, there's something nobody's talking about. Tesla actively resists government oversight of its technology, making it harder for regulators to even study what's going wrong. So here's the question: how does Tesla stack up against other automakers when it comes to self-driving safety? The answer might surprise you. Companies like Waymo and Cruise have spent over a decade perfecting fully autonomous vehicles with multiple layers of redundancy, backup systems, backup sensors, even backup computer systems. Their vehicles undergo rigorous testing before ever seeing public roads. Tesla's approach is radically different. The company uses a single neural network trained on real-world driving data. It's faster to deploy, cheaper to develop, but it's also more dependent on that one system working flawlessly every single time. Think of it like the difference between a parachute with 5 backups versus a parachute with none. One approach assumes failure and has contingencies, the other assumes success. Traditional automakers like Ford and General Motors have also entered the autonomous vehicle space, but they're being far more cautious. They are testing in controlled environments first, conducting extensive safety protocols, and working closely with regulators. Tesla, by contrast, has deployed autopilot to millions of vehicles while it's still in what Tesla calls beta, meaning experimental. Here's the kicker: if Waymo or Cruise had a fatal crash, federal investigators would have grounded their entire fleet pending investigation. Tesla's billions of miles of autopilot usage have given the company a kind of de facto immunity from the same scrutiny. That's changing now. And this is what changes everything. A federal investigation into one crash could reshape how the entire industry approaches autonomous vehicle safety. The federal investigation into the Katy crash sets off a chain reaction that could reshape Tesla's entire autonomous vehicle strategy. Here's what happens next. The NHTSA will subpoena Tesla's code, data logs, and communications about autopilot. They'll examine the specific vehicle's software version on the day of the crash, its sensor data, and its decision-making process. They'll interview Tesla engineers and executives about known limitations and past incidents. This isn't a routine inquiry, it's the precursor to a potential safety recall that could affect millions of Teslas worldwide. If the investigation finds that autopilot has a systematic defect, Tesla could be forced to push a mandatory software update, disable certain features, or in extreme cases, issue a recall that takes vehicles off the road temporarily. For Tesla, a major recall would be devastating on multiple fronts. Financially, it would cost hundreds of millions of dollars. Reputationally, it would undermine the entire narrative Elon Musk has built around the company's autonomous driving progress. And operationally, it would force Tesla to reprogram autopilot in ways that might make it less capable or useful. But here's where it gets surprising. Tesla might actually come out of this stronger. If the company cooperates with regulators, releases transparency reports, and demonstrates genuine improvements to safety, it could rebuild trust and set the industry standard. The real danger is if Tesla resists or downplays the findings. That's historically how companies lose public confidence forever. So what can you actually do about this? If you own a Tesla with autopilot, here's the reality. Autopilot should be treated as an advanced cruise control, not as a self-driving system. Never rely on it completely. Always keep your hands on the wheel, always stay alert, and always assume the system might fail at any moment. Don't use autopilot in complex environments like parking lots, driveways, or areas with poor lane markings. These are exactly where the system struggles most. Second, document everything. If autopilot behaves unexpectedly, take a screenshot of the dashboard, note the time, location, and weather conditions, and file a report with the NHTSA. The more data regulators have about failures, the faster they can identify patterns and force improvements. For regulators, the lesson is clear. Autonomous vehicle technology needs independent testing before deployment, not after accidents happen. Regulators should mandate that companies provide detailed documentation of system limitations, require redundant safety systems, and establish clear liability rules so companies can't hide behind vague disclaimers. And frankly, Congress needs to write new autonomous vehicle laws that treat this technology the same way we treat aviation: rigorous certification, transparent testing, and criminal liability for negligence. Here's the part most people overlook entirely. We are at a pivotal moment where the decisions made now will set the standard for the next 20 years of autonomous vehicle development. This crash might seem like a tragedy, but it's actually an opportunity for regulators to get this right before more people die. Here's what this means for you. The Katy crash isn't just a tragedy, it's a wake-up call that autonomous vehicle technology still has massive blind spots. Even the most advanced companies in the world are still getting it wrong sometimes, and lives are at stake when they do. Tesla's investigation could set a precedent that forces the entire industry to be more transparent, more cautious, and more accountable. The path forward is clear. Technology companies need to stop outrunning regulators. Regulators need to get smarter, faster, and more independent. And as a consumer, you need to make peace with the fact that self-driving technology isn't there yet, no matter what the marketing says. The good news: this investigation could actually accelerate genuine progress. If Tesla is forced to redesign autopilot with true redundancy, improved sensors, and better safety protocols, the next version could actually be significantly safer, but only if regulators don't blink and companies don't cut corners. The stakes couldn't be higher. We are talking about lives. Watch for updates on this investigation over the next few months. The NHTSA's findings could reshape the entire automotive industry, and that's a story we'll be following closely. For daily coverage of artificial intelligence, automotive technology, and regulatory breakthroughs, follow for daily AI news. Stay sharp.